He was just another homeless man on a cold New York street, until President Trump stopped, knelt down, and did something that left everyone around stunned. What happened next changed his life forever. President Trump was in the city for a high-profile campaign event. The streets were lined with security personnel, and crowds had gathered in anticipation of seeing him. Cameras clicked and reporters jostled to capture every moment. But as President Trump made his way down the busy street, his attention was drawn to John. Something about the man's quiet presence and weary expression seemed to stand out from the chaos of the city. While most would have kept walking, President Trump did something unexpected. He stopped. The bustling crowd parted slightly as he approached John, his presence commanding attention without intention. For a moment, time seemed to slow for those nearby. People watched in disbelief as the president knelt slightly to get a better view of the man sitting on the sidewalk. There was no entourage intrusion, no speech prepared, just a genuine pause in a city that rarely stops. John looked up, unsure if he was dreaming. Was this really President Trump standing in front of him? His heart raced. Most encounters with high-profile figures were distant and impersonal, but here was President Trump taking a moment to notice him, to acknowledge his existence. President Trump approached John with a calmness that caught everyone off guard. "How are you doing today?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with genuine curiosity. The question sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. In most encounters with high-profile figures, the interaction ended with a polite nod, a quick handshake, or at most a brief wave. But here was President Trump, pausing in the middle of a bustling street, taking the time to truly speak with a homeless man. John blinked, barely able to comprehend what was happening. He had spent years feeling invisible, ignored by the world around him. And now here was the President of the United States, or at least a former president at the time, addressing him directly. I'm surviving, sir. Just trying to get by," he stammered, his voice a mixture of disbelief and nervousness. Instead of moving on to greet the crowd or pose for cameras, President Trump made a choice that few expected. He pulled up a nearby bench and sat down beside John, leaning slightly forward as if he were speaking to an old friend. People around them stopped in their tracks, unsure whether to keep walking or watch this unprecedented encounter unfold. Phones were raised, and cameras began rolling, capturing every word. But despite the attention, it felt private, almost intimate. President Trump began asking questions, not the kind designed for sound bites, but thoughtful, probing questions about John's life. He wanted to know about the struggles John faced, how he ended up on the streets, and whether he had any family or support system to lean on. The depth of the conversation stunned everyone around. John opened up, recounting stories of missed job opportunities, ongoing health challenges, and the crushing loneliness that comes with life on the streets. Throughout it all, President Trump listened. He nodded thoughtfully, occasionally offering advice or pointing John toward local resources that could help him get back on his feet. There was no rush, no pretense, no need for political statements, just genuine human interaction. What surprised the crowd the most wasn't the meeting itself, but the sincerity with which President Trump engaged with John. For a few moments, the busy New York streets faded away, leaving two men talking, one offering hope, the other soaking it in. This wasn't just a photo opportunity or a staged moment. It was an unexpected act of humanity that left everyone around silently acknowledging that sometimes connection matters more than anything else. After talking for several minutes, President Trump reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. The moment seemed almost surreal to the crowd that had gathered. This wasn't a small gesture or a token amount. It was enough to help John secure temporary housing, buy meals, and take the first steps toward rebuilding his life. For someone who had been living on the streets for years, facing constant uncertainty and struggle, the act felt monumental. John's eyes widened as he stared at the check, unable to speak. Tears began to form, slowly streaming down his weathered face. He tried to find words, but his emotions made it nearly impossible. The years of hardship, loneliness, and invisibility seemed to culminate in this single, unexpected moment of kindness. what you're doing. I don't even know how to thank you, John whispered, his voice cracking. His hands trembled slightly as he reached out and shook President Trump's hand. President Trump smiled warmly, his expression calm but reassuring. Just get back on your feet, John, that's all that matters, he said. There's always a way forward, and you've got to take it. The sincerity in his tone left no doubt that he meant every word. He wasn't giving a speech or making a public statement. He was simply trying to make a difference in one person's life. The crowd that had gathered nearby erupted into applause, some cheering, others wiping tears from their eyes. People began recording the moment on their phones, capturing what would soon go viral across social media platforms. The scene was extraordinary not just because of the check, but because it was so unexpected. Many who had followed President Trump closely knew him as a controversial figure, often dominating headlines for politics and disputes. Yet here he was, showing compassion and humanity in a way that caught everyone off guard. Within minutes, the story began to spread online. Clips of the encounter circulated, with viewers expressing astonishment and admiration. "I never expected to see this from Trump," one commenter wrote. It's rare to see someone actually stop and help a person in need like that. The moment became a symbol of hope, a reminder that acts of kindness can come from the most unexpected places. For John, it wasn't just the money, it was the acknowledgement, the respect, and the reminder that someone truly saw him. And for those watching, it was a lesson that a single act of generosity can ripple far beyond the moment itself, inspiring countless others to do the same. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. Within hours of the encounter, videos of President Trump speaking with John and handing him the check went viral. Social media exploded with reactions. People from all over the country shared the clips, expressing astonishment, admiration, and, in many cases, a renewed sense of hope. Hashtags like "Trump helps homeless" and "Hope for John" began trending, drawing attention not only to John's story, but also to the broader issue of homelessness in America. As the videos circulated, the generosity of strangers followed. Donations poured in from individuals who wanted to help John rebuild his life. Messages of encouragement flooded his social media accounts, while some people even reached out directly, offering job opportunities, housing advice, and guidance on local resources for the homeless. What had begun as a private encounter between President Trump and one man quickly became a nationwide movement of support. The story didn't remain confined to the internet. Local and national news channels picked it up, broadcasting segments that highlighted the encounter and its aftermath. Reporters focused not just on the moment of generosity, but on its ripple effect. Discussions emerged about the importance of acknowledging those who are often invisible in society: the homeless, the struggling, and those who feel forgotten. Viewers were inspired to consider small acts of kindness in their own communities, realizing that even brief moments of attention and care could spark meaningful change. For John, the transformation was immediate. The financial support from the check helped him secure temporary housing, providing a safe place to sleep and begin rebuilding stability. With the encouragement he received from strangers across the country, John felt motivated to start looking for work again. For the first time in years, he had a sense of direction and the possibility of a brighter future. But perhaps the most significant change was not material, it was emotional. John regained something he had lost long ago: hope. The story of President Trump and John became a powerful reminder that one act of kindness, no matter how small it may seem, can create a ripple effect far beyond the initial moment. A simple gesture, taking the time to stop, listen, and offer help, changed not only John's life, but also inspired countless others to reflect on the importance of compassion. It was proof that caring for one person can, in turn, uplift a whole community, reminding the world that humanity and empathy still matter. This story serves as a powerful reminder that no matter who we are or what we have achieved, each of us has the ability to make a difference in someone else's life. President Trump's encounter with John wasn't about politics, headlines, or public image. It was about something far more universal and human: compassion. In a world that moves faster every day, it's easy to overlook those who are struggling, to walk past without noticing. Yet this story shows us that even small acts of kindness, when done sincerely, can create a ripple effect that touches countless lives. John's experience reminds us that people are often stronger than they appear, but everyone benefits from a little encouragement and acknowledgement. A simple gesture, stopping to listen, asking how someone is doing, offering a helping hand, can shift someone's entire outlook. What began as a seemingly random encounter on a cold New York street quickly turned into a moment that inspired millions of people across the nation. Stories like this teach us that human connection is incredibly powerful, and it can occur in the most unexpected ways, between people from entirely different walks of life. The impact went far beyond John's personal circumstances. His story sparked conversations about the homeless and underprivileged, encouraging society to rethink how we treat those living on the margins. It became an example of how genuine attention and care can awaken empathy, inspiring people to act. Donations, support, and messages poured in from strangers, showing that when one person steps up, others are motivated to do the same. The narrative became bigger than one man's kindness. It became a movement, a symbol of hope, and a reminder of our shared responsibility to look out for one another. Ultimately, this story wasn't about President Trump, John, or even the financial assistance. It was about connection, the way a single moment of humanity can change everything. It demonstrates that empathy and action, no matter how small, can transform lives, ignite hope, and inspire countless others to follow suit. Sometimes all it takes is pausing for a moment, seeing someone and letting them know that they matter. On that chilly New York afternoon, one man's choice to stop and care created a ripple that went far beyond a single street corner. It reminds us that meaningful change starts with one act, one conversation, and one moment of genuine human connection.